Spam, phishing, and junk mail are unavoidable parts of having an email account. At MCC, we use an email security service called Advanced Threat Protection or ATP. It does a reasonable job of protecting us from undesirable email. Messages that ATP detects as junk, spam, or phishing are held in your quarantine messages. You will receive a summary of these messages once in a while, just like this one. And from this message, you can click on Review and check if the email is legitimate and release it to your inbox. You can also click or select the block sender, which will prevent you from receiving an email from this sender in the future. You can also access these emails through the MCC portal by selecting the Quarantine Messages apps. But regardless of how good of a job ATP does, there's always going to be some message that gets through. Before we look on how to deal with these messages, it is important that we define the three different types of unwanted message. We will look at them in order of danger. The safest of the three types of message is the junk message. It typically consists of mailing lists for stores or brands, online magazines, or newsletter. So in this example, I signed up for messages from a tech company called Tech Radar, and I often receive messages like this one. Typically, this type of message can be unsubscribed from, or you can report them as junk. So all the emails from this sender will automatically be moved to your junk email folder. The second type of message, which can be somewhat dangerous, is the spam message. Spam messages are sent indiscriminately to email addresses. They are generally trying to get you to purchase something, sign up for something, or direct you to a web page. In this example, an airline is trying to get me to book a flight that is on sale. These emails are typically blocked by ATP, and most of them will be on your junk email folder, but occasionally one will slip through. If that happened, you can always use the report message button and report this email as junk. The third and most dangerous type of message is the phishing message. Phishing messages attempt to obtain sensitive information for malicious reasons. They do this by pretending to be trustworthy and will appear to be coming from other MCC employees or reputable organizations. Phishing messages will ask the recipient to reply, click a link, or open an attachment. So in a few minutes, we will look at how to identify a phishing message, but first, let's look at how to deal with each type of these messages. In Outlook, you can use the report message button to report these types of email as junk or phishing. On the Outlook app, you can use the report message button on the top ribbon. When you're using Outlook on the web, you can find them under More Actions, then hover to report message. For spam messages, you can use the report message and report it as junk. So this will move this email to your junk email folder and any emails from this sender in the future. For phishing emails, however, since they are dangerous and are seeking sensitive information, when or if you receive a phishing email, you should report it as phishing. This will move this email to your quarantine message, but please take note that this will not forward the email to MCC IT. If you want us to verify if an email is legitimate or safe, please forward that email to itsupport@mcc.org. So now let's look at identifying phishing messages. Phishing messages can be difficult to identify. There isn't one rule that will identify a phishing message. So let's take a look at some example phishing messages and study their characteristics or the red flags. And then we will also discuss the actions that should be taken if this message is received. So the first one is from YouTube. There are 5 red flags that we should note here. The first red flag is this message plays to my emotions. I am curious about what the video might be, and I am afraid of missing out on something. The second red flag is this message pretends to be from YouTube. However, if you look closely to the sender's address, it does not really come from YouTube, but rather u-tube-notifications.net. And the third red flag would be this message does not contain any specific information. It does not mention my name, nor does it mention what friend of mine sent this message. The fourth red flag would be it pretends to be an important video revealing something about my personal data. And the last red flag would be my friend would not send me this type of message at work. So what's the appropriate action? You can either delete the message or use the report message button to report it as phishing. The second message also plays to my emotions. I am afraid of having my credit card frozen. And the second red flag would be the message does not specify which credit card company it is coming from. Instead, it's using the generic domain secured-login.net. The third red flag would be the email does not address me by my name, rather it uses Dear Customer. Another red flag would be the spelling mistake in the last line. And the last red flag would be I would not receive this type of email message at work. So the appropriate action for this type of emails is to delete it or use the report message and report it as phishing. Another example is this message that again plays to my emotions. It says that I have a court case that I need to prepare for, and that is scary. It also warns of consequences of ignoring the message. The sender does not specify any other information other than their name. If this is a legitimate email, there should be at least a valid email signature containing their contact information. Although this message is targeted at me and contains my name, I should not be receiving these types of email on my MCC email address. Although this message does contain personal information, it could easily be obtained through online sources. And typically, most of this notice to appear in court are delivered personally or by mail, not by email. Because this is targeted specifically at me, I should use the report message and report it as phishing. Or you can forward this email to itsupport@mcc.org if you want us to verify its legitimacy. Another example is this message that yet again plays to my emotions. I am both scared and angry that I received a speeding ticket. This message contains a lot of personal information, and at first glance, there is nothing that indicates that this is a fraudulent message. The domain and the content look legitimate. Furthermore, I do work in Plaza Drive, so it's possible that I might receive a speeding ticket there. However, these information can easily be found or available online, and because this is targeted at me specifically, I should use the report message button and report it as phishing, or you can forward this to itsupport@mcc.org if you want us to verify if this is a legitimate email. This next message is one of the trickiest types of phishing messages to spot. It plays to my emotion of wanting to please my boss. This message is typically sent pretending to be from the boss to an employee. It's asking me to do something right away and has an excuse about not being able to take a phone call, making email the only way to verify that this is legitimate. Please take note that the domain is correct, which is mcccanada.ca, but you'll notice that the name or the username looks suspicious. And this is, in fact, not my supervisor's legitimate email address. So, this type of message may contain a lot of personal information. This one addresses me by my name, and it also identifies my supervisor or my boss. And the more sophisticated attacks may contain even more information about me or my boss. The lesson here is if your boss requests that you do something by email involving any transactions of money or requires you to send sensitive information, make absolutely sure that this is or it is a legitimate request. You can verify with a Teams message or a phone call or some other method of communication. You can also forward these types of email to itsupport@mcc.org if you want us to verify if it's legitimate or not, or you can report it as phishing by using the report message button. As you can see, there are very sophisticated phishing emails. All of these emails plays to our emotions and they are requesting that we do something. Click a link, open an attachment, or reply to a message. Clicking a link or opening an attachment can infect the MCC network with a virus or malware, and replying to a phishing email will provide personal information about MCC's email system and organizational structure, which can be used in future attacks. All phishing emails will ask you to perform some kind of action, and it will contain an emotional reason for you to do so. If you realize that you've fallen for a phishing email, let's say you click the link, open an attachment, or reply to an email, please notify the MCC IT immediately. And if your computer starts to do anything unusual, press the power button for 5 seconds until it turns off, and leave it off until instructed to turn on by IT staff.